Hello. So I'm going to do my mid-month reflection review on the fountain pens that I have inked up. And so I've got the page right here with information, but I'm also going to pull out, apparently I'm making a mess, this right here. So I've got these two different versions. All right, so the first one is the Twsbi Eco Glow Purple, and that was a carryover from a couple of months. I was hoping to be able to clear it out in February. I did not. At this point, there's just such a tiny amount of ink that if I don't use it by the end of this month, I'll probably just flush it out and I'll pull this back out at a later time. So that's my Twsbi Glow Purple in an extra fine with Diamine Harmony. The next one is Twsbi Diamond 580 with Pennsylvania Fieldstone. So that one is one that I'm probably just going to keep inked up for a while. I use this for my notes when I'm doing my doctoral study research in my doctoral notebook, as well as it is a perfect color for my friend's wedding, who has the colors of blush and navy and silver. And I have another pen that I'm going to have inked up for that wedding. So that's here. My Pilot Firmo in dark green with a fine nib. This has Birmingham Pen Company Burnt Walnut and has about that much ink left. So this has been pretty consistently inked up with burnt walnut since I received this pen. I like it because it's close to a black, but it's not a black. It's nice to put items on my calendar and have it all in the same color. So I'm probably going to keep that. I'll probably do a refill with burnt walnut, and this will just be kind of an everyday carry pen. Then next up, I have my Pelikan M400. So there's not, I don't know if you can really see it, but there's not much ink in there. There's just a little bit down here. I love this Moonstone ink. I am really debating if I'm just going to refill it with Moonstone or maybe try a different color. But I love this pen. I love how smooth it writes. I love the shading in this ink. I love the color of this ink. I love it's a Pelikan with a Pelikan. So we'll see. But this, I'll probably do some everyday writing and be able to use up this ink in the next couple of days. This next one, the Kaweco Student 1970 Soul with a fine nib. So this one is inked up with Diamine Storm. This is the other wedding ink that I have. And it does have a cartridge in it. And, you know, not too much ink is left in there. So I'll probably finish out this fill this month, but then refill it with the same ink because it's just... it's such a nice ink. I love having a dark blue ink in this pen. It's a good pairing, so why mess with a good thing? Then I've got a Jinhao 82 in an extra fine. This came in a set of two. One is a fine, one is an extra fine. I actually am going to be gifting the fine to one of the students that I work with who's taken a liking to fountain pens. Look at that shimmer. So I've done one journal entry with this ink. This likely will go into April because I'm prioritizing all of the green inks for March. But I'm also working through some of the green inks a little bit faster than what I anticipated. So this may come out in some of the journal entries a little sooner. For example, here's a journal entry with that ink. It's light but legible, and it does have a nice shimmer. The shimmer tends to go down almost in chunks, so I have certain lines that are just more shimmery than others. Next up is my Twsbi Eco Glow Green with a fine nib. And this I inked this up for January with Ackerman 28 Hof Quartier Green. I'm not saying that correct, I am sure. And the ink capacity on a Twsbi is just so substantial that it is taking me a bit to go through this. So this will probably also go forward to April. Next up is Twsbi Eco Tea with Royal Jade and Rose Gold. And this has Diamine Garland, which I just recently got a bottle of. I previously had the small, I think it's a 12 mil from Inkvent. So I have that in here. It's a sheening ink, it's a shimmer ink, it's green with some blue and some red sheen. It's just a beautiful ink. I have used this to write a couple of letters. I've used this to do my habit tracker. I'm really hesitant to use this on my journaling pages because it's just such a bold writer between the medium nib and the ink. But I probably should do at least a spread of writing with this. So, maybe I'll pull that out tomorrow and get that done. I do note here the tally marks represent the pages of journaling that I do with that particular pen and ink combination, just so I can get an idea of how far the ink will go, kind of ink capacity. I'm playing around with that because certainly if I'm doing a habit tracker with this, that's not going to be accounted. If I'm writing letters, that's not going to be accounted. If I'm doing my memory keeping, that's not going to be accounted. There's just a lot of variables there, but it's one piece of information that I'm looking at. Now the next one, the Kaweco Collection Iridescent Pearl with a medium nib. It's inked up with Van Diemen's Elegant Peacock Train. That one is actually with my 5-year journal. I'm using that for my 5-year. Now, for those of you that have a Kaweco collection, Kaweco Sport, you know that the cartridge holds a very tiny amount of ink. So I actually refilled that on the 12th, and I still have this much ink from the Ink Flight ink journal, so I definitely have enough to get through the month, probably enough to try it out in another pen, which is kind of my goal. So I noted that I refilled it. Now my Mahjong M2, now this one, look at that. So I had this ink pool in the cap. I'm gonna try not to spill. And I cleaned it out, rinsed it out, look at that. And then the next day it had that ink pooling again. So I'm gonna pause on this one. Now I've just coated the inside. When the ink drains, I guess, you'll see that there's just a little bit of ink left in it, and I do have a full bottle of this, so I'm not sure if I'm going to kind of rinse this out and start over. I'm not sure. This has been in my Galen leather planner that travels between home and work. I have a work backpack that goes in. I'm not necessarily the gentlest, but it's also not beat up. So I may just try to keep it flat on a desk and see if it still does this leaking. And I'm thinking it just where the ink is pooling, it must be leaking from around this area. So I'm just gonna do some exploration here, pay attention to some factors and see what I can learn. Look at that. Such a waste. I like how this writes. It's been nice to journal with. Nice fine line, exactly what I like. But I don't love that ink is kind of burping out. I think I had a viewer say that with this kind of a fill, if it's not full, it's more likely to burp. That could be the case. Anyway, so that's the Mahjong M2. And then there is the Ferris Wheel Press gold-plated brush pen. Now with this pen, and I saw one person do a video review, I want to say it was with the black version, and when they untwisted the cap, the barrel untwisted, and they sent it back and got it replaced. I don't know that I necessarily care to get it replaced. Mine does do that, so that's interesting. This has Ferris Wheel Press Spruce County Post, and there's not a ton of ink left in this fill. It did start to not write wonderfully. That's why I twisted the cartridge converter up to push it through into the feed or prime the feed, and it's been fine since. I'm assuming I'll get another journaling spread out of that. I've already gotten 4 pages, 2 spreads out of it. So I'm thinking I'll get another 2 pages or another spread. Now next up is my Laban Rosa Lilac. Love this pen, but goodness, it's giving me a run for my money, literally and figuratively. So I first inked it up with Van Diemen's European Honey Bee Eater Wing. Yes. That's a watered down version of that ink because I did a water flush. That's a better representation of the color. I did 2 journaling pages. With that particular ink, when I would put the pen down for, let's say an overnight, when I would pick it up in the morning, it wouldn't write, and I would have to put the tines down against paper and rub it and get the ink flowing, and then drag the tip of the nib into that, and then it would write for a bit. If I picked my pen up and thought, then when I put it back down, it would be a darker shade, and then it would get lighter as I wrote. So I eventually ended up, I posted a video. Thank you all for your feedback, your recommendations. It was really helpful. I ended up emptying out that ink and putting in Birmingham Pen Company Eroded Bronze because I wanted to figure out because I did a syringe fill, if doing a fill where I dipped the nib and twisted the cartridge converter had a better effect, and it kind of did. There were a few occasions where it would write dry and I would have to unscrew the barrel and prime the feed, and then it would write fine. So I used up that ink. Then with another suggestion that I got, again, thank you all so much, I put in yesterday Pilot Iroshizuku Kirisami. I have 2 Pilot Iroshizuku inks bottle. I might have a sample. I'm trying to think, maybe not. But I did that last night. It has worked good today. I will continue to see how it works as the cartridge gets less and less full to see if that impacts it. I think if I'm still experiencing the same issues with the Iroshizuku ink, I'm likely going to contact Goldspot, because at that point I think I've done my due diligence for what I can do as a consumer, and I would look for them to take a look at it. And I do wonder if the nib and feed needs to be replaced. Maybe. We'll see. So that's that. So that was the first pen added to my collection, re-added to my collection in February, because I originally received it in January. Sorry, this is March. I originally received it in February, sent it back to Goldspot, got it got it back in the beginning of March, and so it was added after I did my currently inked. Then the next pen that I received in the month of March is the Sailor Manyo Nuts, and it came with a bottle of ink that is Sailor Manyo Shirakashi. And so I inked that up on Friday when I received this pen after winning the money that I used to purchase it with. And between Friday and Monday, I used up almost all the ink because I was just finding reasons to write with this. And so I refilled it on the 13th. I've already done 2 journaling pages with it. The cartridge converter is small, so the ink capacity is not very big. And then I also have, which the video likely is not out yet. I'm just thinking of when that's scheduled to publish. I think next week. I have a Jinhao Classic in the blue-green colorway, which looks very similar to the Laban Rosa Lilac. And this one, I have not done any journaling pages with it. I don't really want to speak to how it writes, but I'm just kind of owning that it's on the page and I'm acknowledging that. So I will come back to this probably next month. So that's my mid-month progress report on my inks. I will just do a quick flip through of my journaling pages. So this is the Mahjong M2, Ferris Wheel Press, gold-plated brush pen, Laban Rosa. You can see the deviations in color as the page goes on. The Mahjong M2 again, Ferris Wheel Press brush pen, the Sailor Pro Gear Slam Manyo Nuts, Twsbi Eco Glow Green, and that's where we are at. So I'm probably going to try to do the Twsbi Royal Jade Rose Gold with Diamond Garland for the next 2 days. How is your month going? Leave me a comment, let me know, and I'm already thinking about what I'm going to be doing for my next currently inked in April. If anyone wants to make any requests, please do. Thanks. Bye.